Welcome back to Big Baby J TV. I'm going to start a new segment and we're going to call it The Rundown. So this is going to be The Rundown. I'm going to be talking about 4 to 5 hip-hop stories or things related to the culture that I find interesting and I think they need some opinion and also some vibes. So I'm going to start off with my first story, and it's about Future. Pluto, that guy. So this morning, he was actually in court, and he was discussing about his child support payments. So we know the Future, loves the streets, and apparently the streets love him back, because this is his 6th baby mama, Eliza Reign. She essentially wanted to get $53,000 a month for child support. Keep in mind, her child is 1. Okay, I don't know what type of diapers, I don't know what type of baby formula she wants, but apparently she wanted $53,000 a month. So the judge got to deciding and decided to put her down to $3,200 a month, based off Future's accountant. Future's accountant said that he only made $30,000 a month. So based on that, the judge said we'll move it down to $3,200 a month for ex-stripper Eliza Reign with the 1-year-old. All right, my quick thoughts are this, bro. There is no child that needs $53,000 a month. I doubt that most kids need $3,200 a month. Okay. Long story short, Future is one of them dudes that loves, how can I say this, HOEs, you know what I mean? And I'm going to let y'all decipher what that is. And I'm not saying that Eliza Reign is an HOE, but it seems like she might have more interest than just her kid. $3,200 a month is more than enough to feed a child. $3,200 a month, that equates to almost $60,000 a year. And that's raising a child. People raise their child on less, way less. So just keeping it 100. The fact that Future's accountant was able to crunch the numbers and say he makes about $30,000 a month. Man, shouts out to that accountant. I wish he could help me with my taxes. Okay. Anyways, on to the next thing, the rundown. We're going to move to Tahiry, man. I don't know if y'all know about Tahiry Jose. She's one of Joe Budden's exes. Joe Budden is obviously an entertainer / podcaster / interviewer. He's multi-hyphenate. So, recently, Tahiry, his ex, was on a show called Marriage Boot Camp, where she was actually abused by her boyfriend at the time, Vado. Very low-key, nobody knows about this guy type rapper, type vibes and whatever. So essentially they were having an argument. She threw an apple at him, and then he ensued to go and choke her, right? Got kicked off the show, obviously, and she ended up doing an interview for a show called Hollywood Unlocked, where she revealed that she had experienced abuse before from men, specifically from Joe Budden. So my point of view, the Big Baby J point of view, is that let's get this clear. Men, it's our responsibility not to put our hands on women, period. We don't do that. We don't do that on this side. But we need to understand one thing, and this is for any of the ladies that are listening and anybody who, who's been in these kind of relationships. Don't provoke men. Don't provoke men, because there's a lot of men out there who aren't raised right and who don't understand the concept of not abusing or touching a woman, right? There's a lot of guys out there who do drugs and, love alcohol, and when they are provoked, it's their instinct to act like that. Now, when Tahiry was doing this interview, she was sad. She was very, very traumatized, obviously so. And she accused Joe Budden of, beating her ribs and having her lie to cops and to nurse attendants once they were looking at her ribs and looking at her scars. Now, I think at the end of the day, there's two sides to every story. I do believe women, I'm leaning towards believing Tahiry, you know what I mean? But we have to understand that in domestic situations, there's also the other side. And I'm not trying to apologize for Joe Budden or Vado and any of those people. But in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking, what happened that led up to that, With that marriage boot camp situation, she threw an apple at him. I'm not saying as a man you should, beat the brakes out of somebody who throws an apple at you. But think about it like this. You don't understand how people react, And in those domestic situations, there's somebody who's viewed it, who's been around it, who kind of understands a little bit of it. A lot of the reason that, these guys are liked or there's an attraction to them, some of the ladies are attracted to them, is because they have that anger, that abusive streak in them. So it's simultaneously something that is liked and something that's feared, and that's a form of masculinity that is sometimes respected by some people. I'm not saying that Tahiry respect guys who are abuser, but I'm saying there is a psychological aspect that they got to deal with, and we got to be honest, in the black community, the cycle of abuse, especially domestic violence, needs to be addressed. You know what I mean? Do I think that Joe is a bad guy? No, I don't think he's a bad guy. Do I think Tahiry is a liar? No, I don't think she is a liar. I think there's subtleties and truths in between all of this. And in general, I think that she needs therapy to figure out why she has been with multiple men who are abusive. And obviously Joe Budden needs therapy because he's insane and he's a weirdo. You know what I mean? And if this is true, I think he just needs to spend some time behind bars. He needs to be punished for that, Which leads me to topic number 3. We're talking about Joe Budden again. Joe Budden versus Charlemagne the God. So recently, as somebody who spectates the media, somebody who really likes the podcast game and media itself, Joe Budden has been complaining about his situation with Spotify. So if I can summarize it quickly, Joe Budden signed this exclusive Spotify deal about 2 years ago, and this deal made his podcast only exclusive to Spotify and taking him off Apple Music, the Apple Atmosphere, Apple Podcasts, all of that. So what that means is that his podcast had all intellectual property was with Spotify for a certain amount of time. His contract is about to end. He has about 3-4 episodes left. So he started airing out the dirty laundry, specifically about the negotiation dealings and all that. Essentially, Joe Budden was arguing that, hey, we need to get paid more. We need more than what Spotify is giving us. Keep in mind, Spotify gave 500 M's to the Ringer Podcast Network, but Bill Simmons gave about 100 M's to Joe Rogan. And, Joe Budden felt some type of ways. And we all know how this man is vocal and what kind of voice he has. I might add a clip in here to show his point of view. And Charlemagne the God at Breakfast Club kind of argued back and said, hey, man, you shouldn't be airing out this kind of dirty laundry. You shouldn't be negotiating like this, XYZ. Now, this goes to a big debate when it comes to, media and all that. It comes to the debate of steady income, which is, a daily scheduled work, or entrepreneurship, ownership, which is what Joe Budden is aiming for. Charlemagne is more on the steady pay, the grind, go through the corporate ladder, climb up. Keep in mind, Breakfast Club has been going on for 10 plus years, and the reason it's popping, let's be real, is because of Charlemagne the God. So see the God, his argument was, don't air out the corporations, don't go that way. Now look, I can respect Joe Budden. Why? Because this man is taking the harder path. You know what I mean? Being an entrepreneur is not easy. Okay? Once you get the bag, then it becomes 10 times harder to keep on getting multiple bags. This guy, Joe Budden, was making nothing when he was with Apple Podcasts, when he started his podcast for at least 3-4 years. And then he got a super bag from Spotify. Now he's going to be a free agent and he's going to get an even bigger bag. You know? So it is a risk in itself. Okay? This is basically the Jay-Z versus it's essentially the Jay-Z versus Dame Dash approach. Okay? Jay-Z went up and did the corporate thing. Dame Dash went another way. Right? So one path is harder, but one path leads to more ownership and more greatness. And I think the entrepreneurial path is the one that's harder but has bigger reward. Joe Budden is trying to be an owner. Charlemagne, on the other end, is not saying he's trying to be a slave or just a worker. He understands that the steady income is important. Keep in mind, see the God is a family guy. That's what he is, you know. Now, personally, which side am I on? I'm more so on the see the God, Charlemagne side, and a little bit of Joe Budden. So I would say 60-40, because I believe ownership is important, especially as black people. We don't own much, you know. But at the end of the day, I also believe that you have to take calculated risks. You know, not everybody can do what Joe Budden just did or is planning to do. Okay? You have to understand that building your own means that you have to work 10 times harder than somebody who is getting something steady. Okay? And if you're willing to take that risk, then take that risk. You know? And to end this off, we have to unfortunately talk about Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace to the Black Panther, Charla. And if you haven't heard the news, on Saturday, the actor unfortunately passed away after fighting stage 3 cancer, for 4 years. Now, I'm not gonna lie here and say that I watched every Chadwick Boseman movie. I'm not gonna cap and pretend like I'm the biggest Chadwick Boseman fan, but I'm gonna say this. His role in Black Panther will be remembered and will be revered to the level of Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, you know, and take the impact of, you know, a guy like Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man. You know, for us as black folks to see a hero represented in the light as not just somebody on the sideline but on the front lines. As an African, to see an African hero, that was huge. And for T'Challa to really represent that African diaspora, the themes and layers Chadwick Boseman was able to reach was absolutely inspiring and amazing, you know. Now he has become an ancestor. Sadly, at the age of 43, he passed on. And his legacy will last on, you know what I mean? As a man who stood with integrity, a man who stood for kindness and who stood for perseverance and never giving up, despite that ugly face called cancer. He fought it, you know what I mean? And he didn't lose. He didn't lose because he will influence another generation, you know? He will influence the future. And there's power in that. That's a win, you know? That's a win. And it reminded us to be kind to each other. Because at the end of the day, you never know what somebody's going through. People were cracking jokes about him being skinny, being on drugs, being emaciated, and all that. But when this guy was fighting for his life, okay? So watch what you guys say. And we lift up Brother Chadwick Boseman to the ancestors. And that was the rundown. And this is Big Baby J TV. And I'd like you to like, comment, subscribe, all right? I'm out.